I'm here is I am DSCI alumni as part of Cybersecurity program. Cybersecurity is a joint skilling initiative by DSCI and Microsoft for the young women, and I'm from the batch of 2021. So, with immense pleasure, I am so happy to welcome you all for the session, and we'll begin with the session soon. I would now request to call our panelists to the dais and please welcome Mr. Jagannath Pakala. Uh, he's a data privacy officer from LTI Mindtree Limited. Welcome, sir. Ms. Priya Gora, leading GRC and Global DPO from Extria. Welcome. Dr. Bharat Saraf, Director Head Privacy, PhonePe. Very warm welcome. Ms. Reena Bangeri, she's an independent consultant, privacy, advisory and compliance. Very warm welcome. Mr. Tanin Chakrabarti, Senior Director, Global Data Privacy Officer, Beacon Biologics. I want to thank DSCI and Microsoft for this opportunity to learn, and I'm really looking forward for this discussion. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting session. We have a very good set of panelists. One of the kind, because there are no CISOs here, right? All of us are DPOs, and that's the theme of this session. We don't want to give away our jobs to the CISOs, right? So, of course, I mean, we want to emphasize on the role of the DPO, how different it is in the privacy context. That's the theme of the session. So I would start the session by asking each of the panelists on their views on what they think about the role of a DPO is, right, and how different it is and how independent it should be, because that's very essential for data privacy as such. So, let me start, please.
Yeah. Thanks. I think it's very interesting because the landscape has really changed, and we often talk about CISO, and I think everybody is very well versed with the term of CISO now. But more and more we are on SaaS, means we are going on cloud. Even small business, medium business, large business, everybody is on cloud now. That is the need of the hour. So the more we are on cloud, starting with every generation, not only the working professionals, from all generations. So the idea is, yes, CISO, now everybody knows it, security plays a equal role. And the mindset was, security is something at the top layer and privacy is down layer. I think that first thing, the mindset, it needs to be, first thing is that has to be changed. Because in today's time now, security and privacy, they really go hand in hand. We can have security aspects in place, but at the same time, we can have equally compliance issues with respect to privacy. Because now we have formal frameworks in market, not only for GDPR, US, for that matter for the business we do. It can be healthcare domain, it can be telecom domain. Not only global privacy laws, but specific laws with respect to retail, with respect to telecom, with respect to healthcare. So there are specific privacy laws as well. So now the time is actually that security and privacy goes hand in hand, and it's not a kind of a sister concern to each other. So that's how the role has evolved, and I think management is also aware about it because it gets driven by the business. So that's my take. Yeah.
Thank you, Priya. Bharat, why don't you? Thank you, Priya. But I think, Bharat, why don't you take a shot at this, please?
Sure. So clearly, as Priya rightly said, especially in India, I think the privacy role has evolved for sure with the DPDP Act now coming into play, and we are all awaiting the rules. But now, if you compare the privacy role and the responsibilities that a DPO should actually perform in comparison to the other roles that are there in the organization. So strictly, I would take a legal point of view here. Comparing it to the GDPR, I would say that a DPO has to be a very specialized role in an organization. It is no longer that a person with uh, a minimum years of experience can be just transferred into a DPO role, or in conjunction with other roles and responsibilities carry out the DPO related roles and responsibilities as well. So it is very clear now that a DPO should have an expert knowledge in data privacy practices. One, that's a given. He needs to understand what data privacy means from different data subjects standpoint. So if you're in a B2C, what does it mean from a consumer standpoint? What does it mean from the merchants that you're dealing with? What does it mean from a third party standpoint? If you're in a B2B space, what does it mean from your employee standpoint, right? What does it mean when you are dealing with your customers in a B2B space? So that expert knowledge on handling privacy related aspects for sure is a key requirement for anybody to don the cap of a data protection officer. Second, of course, because this is a collaborative role in an organization, you will have to interact with each and every function because data lies everywhere across the organization. So that entails that you need to have knowledge, especially on the technical side. You need not be an expert on the technical side, but you need to have sufficient amount of understanding of the different tools, the different technologies that are being utilized in an organization. Uh, for example, if you are asking certain security related controls to be implemented by the CISO, it can just be an eyewash if you do not understand technology as a DPO. So you need to understand the technical terms that the CISO and his team would be talking in. So this is just an example. Similarly, when you are dealing with the finance team, you are dealing with the HR team. So you need to have knowledge of these various facets of different departments in an organization. So that becomes a key as well. The third important thing is he should be a good communicator and a negotiator. Because if you see the GDPR says that a DPO is an extension of the data protection board. He is in an advisory role to the data controller, and in our parlance, a data fiduciary. So if he has to be a good advisor, he needs to be a good communicator and a negotiator to ensure that the data privacy controls are put in place in a proper manner. The advice that has been passed to the data controller is being followed by the data controller in a compliant manner as well. So these become the three key traits, I would say, that are very relevant and important for a data protection officer to have. Of course, it is not that other roles cannot take up this responsibility, but then the question of independence does come in. And I think we'll delve into a bit more on how a DPO role needs to be independent compared to the other roles in the organization and what importance does it have from a privacy standpoint. But at the moment, I would say these would be the three key takes or the traits, that a data protection officer needs to have.
Thank you, Bharat. Rina, what about you?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. So basically, if you have to understand in a very layman perspective, what does data processing entail? So you need to look at from the data lifecycle perspective, how you are collecting data, what processing you are doing, and what is your mechanism of deletion. When you look at these three process steps, it is important for us to, as a DPO, understand the security aspects as well. It's integrated in the role that you have adequate knowledge of handling securely processed data. So that is one important thing. Second, as a DPO, you are responsible for the organization in terms of building the privacy awareness in the system, right? The people who you are dealing with should understand what is the sensitivity of data. These are the two aspects. The third, from a the organization perspective, it is important, and you must have seen in the industry as well, that organizations are now mobilizing funds and ensuring that they have adequate alignment to the expectation of compliance from the DPDPA, right? So these are the high level steps. Yeah.
Tanan, so how about you?
Thank you, Jagan, and thank you, DSCI. So I see it in coin it in two words, which is techno-legal kind of a role. Where I say that because of legal, you need to read about your agreements, you need to understand where the privacy part into it. In talking about a technical part of it, when you are suggesting some solutions to be implemented in the organization, so you got to be very sure that what you are suggesting, and when you going back to the CISO or your higher management to implement something, your ideas needs to be very clear and what needs to be implemented. So a kind of a techno legal role, and obviously our panelists have already talked about all the points that a DPO role consists of. Also, I'll talk about one point, which is like knowledge of regulatory compliance. So, for example, if you are a GDPR compliant, GDPR individuals so who have a very good knowledge of GDPR, and you are serving in European clients, so knowing about GDPR is important. Now, you coming back to DPDP, it's very much important. You going back to any South Asian countries, you got to know about their privacy laws. So all this, having adding to what our panelists have already said, would add up my understanding of what exactly the DPO role would consist of.
One
Thanks.
more clarification
Yeah.
I can give is that I think there is a lot of market buzz on putting across courses and getting certified DPOs across and then trying to market them. It's not as simple of a job. That requires ground experience either as a technical expert who has implemented technology from a CISO perspective, I'll say that, or from a legal background where they have understood what laws are. So it's very critical that you just can't do a certification and get engaged as a DPO.
That's very well articulated. Just to summarize, I think we covered three key aspects. A DPO needs to understand the law, so primarily be law savvy, right, and be a technology aware person, because when a DPO goes and speaks about how what data privacy is, right, they should be the person who's implementing the technical measures should be able to convince the DPO, and the DPO should understand what kind of measures they have put together. And of course, one another key aspect is it can't be done alone, so it's done in collaboration. So it's a combination of all these three activities. So I'll come back to Priya with my next question. What is a typical data governance framework, and how would a DPO govern data privacy posture of an organization? And you being from the GRC background as well, what kind of risks do you personally see the governance metrics should monitor?
Right. I think we just talked about firstly starting about the role of DPO. It can't be somebody come with a certification and they start doing a DPO role. Having a DPO role and doing the governance of it, it's very important to have a enterprise view of whole organization. If you think just from a silos of technology aspect of it, it is not going to work. So the governance is the key aspect of privacy. But said that, we all talked about that, DPO role should have an idea of technology aspects and at the same time legal aspects also. I agree on to that. But at the same time, there is a very key role that DPO does, that is governance, and governance with respect to privacy. And it is not limited to legal and it is not limited to security. It is aspect of every, you have to have an enterprise view. What is going on? What is the data flow of HR data with respect to employee? It can be for finance. It can be for maybe you are giving your, for example, healthcare data because you are insured from organization. Where is that data going? So when I talk about governance, we have to see it from multifaceted. And not only that, let me give an example. There are visitors who come to your office, and we all use SaaS-based. They come and they just scan your photos and they give entry. Okay, great, high tech. But that data is going into some cloud as well. So when we talk about the governance aspect of it, it is not limited. That person having a DPO role need to have a really enterprise vision. He needs to have an enterprise view, going to a level from, and it can be for vendors, it can be for HR data, it can be for legal, finance data. At the same time, it can be to a level where, for example, in cafeteria or for example for transport, UBP are willing a transport. Okay, so that transport department may give a number to a driver. Tomorrow that driver may change. So, end of the day, the number changed. They may call you. So, organization is responsible for that. So, when I talk about governance, it is the landscape is an enterprise level. You can't just think in the silos. You have to really take governance at the top level and then independently with respect to every org. every department, you have to see their data flow is with respect to employee data, with respect to certainly customer data, and then have a roadmap of governance on it and awareness and governance regular. At the same time, maple management aware about those aspects, because some time back when I talked about this transport point, nobody even thought about it. He said, okay, that's okay, number has gone to driver, so what a big deal. But tomorrow if that person come back and say my number was misused, this person was calling me again and I await the shuttle of organization. So we have to go and think it from that grassroots level till the toppest level. So that's how the whole governance structure of privacy needs to be taken care of. Yeah.
Can
Thank
I add
you.
a point?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a very minor thing. I mean, I think it has to be top down driven.
Agree.
If
Yeah.
you look at what are the privacy risks for the organization, define the KPIs for the privacy program. One of the things could be like whether DPIAs are effectively done. First of all, are you evaluating the need of a DPIA? That is one. Second, if you want to measure really the number of data breaches, right? That is one metric. The third could be, training awareness and the measurement of, the knowledge which you are doing. How do you measure the knowledge of an individual on the ground that they are aware of the privacy aspects in their day-to-day delivery, right? So these three would be critical from a KPI definition perspective, and you can evolve this program. Governance is not a one-day job. It has to evolve over a period of time based on the maturity of the organization.
So
Thank you, Reena. I'll come to you.
Yeah.
All right. Just to summarize, Priya and Reena put it very well. Governance is not a small activity, right? It involves the DPO has to govern data that is coming into the organization and the data that is going outside the organization, data that is sitting in the organization, and data that is getting deleted from the organization, right? I think it's an end-to-end exercise. And also map it to the privacy laws that are available in this scenario today. So you need to know why you are collecting the data, right? You can't just collect data because it is there, right? It's available. You need to know the lawful basis that you're collecting, and then is it actually being used for the purpose that you collected it, right? Again, in privacy laws clearly call out the purpose limitation and the six principles. Is the organization adopting the six principles of data privacy? Right, so governance is beyond just a set of reports. It's actually it's being involved through the entire data life cycle of the particular personal data that is coming in and going out of the organization. Then I'll go back to Reena on my next question. What are the typical challenges you have seen in your organization as a privacy expert when it comes to cross-border transfer and lawful basis of processing?
Yeah, so cross-border transfer, if you look at, it depends on what kind of business you're running, right? Are you in a position where any of your subsidiaries or your customers have asked you to do a data processing at a different location? First of all, that is the first premise. Second, how are you contractually covering your risks from, applying those instruments like a BCR or SCCs and so on? Then how do you actually measure the compliance to these instruments? So there has to be a complete end-to-end mapping of how, what, and what is the mechanism of governing it, right? So that is one. And in the Indian context, if you look at, you have consent management, which is primarily being discussed. So that is one lawful basis which needs to be evaluated on a business case scenario as to whether the lawful basis is adequately meeting the need which you have defined it. So it depends on the scenario.
So thank you, Tanin. You want to take the same question?
Sure. So what I was referring to, that if you see GDPR, if you see any privacy law, so everything is revolving around a data subject or data principal. So what Priya was referring to, it to understand that our DPO needs to understand how how the data often in data subject needs to be taken care. Talking about a cab driver getting our data out, or even if a vendor going out. So all that is understandable, but making sure that an individual to sit over from the top and understanding the value of data subject and their data is very much important. Now coming back to a point that what all solutions that we can have, there are a couple of solutions that we can bring into to an organizations that can provide security to our data. So we can look for an encryption kind of thing. We can look for an pseudomization kind of thing, Also we can look for our data deletion also one of the thing that we can look for. And if you are not using the data, let's get delete off, let's get write off. So if you are not processing the data, get delete those data. So this way you are minimizing the risk. So if you are minimizing the risk, you are eventually you end up minimizing the cost of storing that data. So if you add up one point to another, you even eventually will see that you are bringing in privacy as a culture in the organizations, and as a governance part of to it.
Thank you. Very important aspect that Tanin brought out was bringing in a privacy culture in the organization. That is very, very important for a privacy ecosystem to flourish and be successful, right? And coming back to challenges, the DPO's challenges, if I may summarize and add to what they are saying, me being a DPO, I can't stop myself from adding to what the panel is saying. So to bring out challenges of a DPO, it it is not just running the function, right? It is to ensure that the function is well equipped, as well as the organization is supporting that particular function. Just to catch on to what the other panelists were saying, as a DPO, you should have one of the biggest challenges many DPOs have is top management support. If there is no top management support, then it is very difficult for you to actually percolate a privacy culture within the organization, right? The second one is budget, right? The DPO organization should not be treated as a checkbox, right? The privacy law exists, so there's a external counsel who advises us, so we implement a policy, and that's pretty much it. No, it's a lot beyond. So there is a significant budget that needs to be allocated, and the importance of a DPO is to convince the top management to be able to approve the budget. All right, you should be able to justify the budget. It's not just the team members. You are going to be implementing tools. You are going to be implementing technology measures. You're going to be asking your the corporate security team and the IT teams to implement so many other measures into the ecosystem, and so on and so forth. I mean, we can go on. So it's challenges are abundant for a DPO office. All right. So let me go to the next question on. I'll pass it on to Bharat this time. Right. Sorry, Priya. I'll pass it on to Bharat. As a DPO, can you throw some light on how a DPO can influence the organization to go privacy by design, implement privacy by design, and implement technologies which aligns with privacy by design in the organization, please?
Uh, sure, Jagan. I think privacy by design is at the core of privacy for sure, because once you achieve privacy by design especially if you're a B2C company, and you achieve privacy by design in your products, in your processes, in the organization as a whole, I think that's half the battle won. Now the question is, how do you influence your stakeholders and create that awareness that, hey, this is a very critical aspect of privacy compliance. So earlier days, I think that was a big challenge for us privacy professionals, but now we have a law, and I think it is much more easier because we have got a 250 crore fine sitting on our heads. So hopefully that makes it easy. But jokes apart, having said that, I think to influence privacy by design in everything that you do, business, products, and people, I think what's important is there should be a tone from the top to start off with. That does not only apply for privacy program as a whole, but for privacy by design as well. So for example, I'm heavily in a B2C space where all my products are hitting the market. There's a lot of data processing that is happening, and by data processing I mean there's a lot of collection, there's a lot of transfer, there's a lot of data sharing that happens internally and externally within my organization. So ensuring that one, my product developers, my engineers, my UX guys, everybody understand privacy at the core, right? And you need to create that awareness as a DPO. You need to have focused group discussions, sit down with them, try and explain what is privacy by design and how do you embed privacy by design in the different products and processes that you are building up. That's the first key part that you need to achieve. Second, I think the most important piece is you building certain frameworks which help you create privacy impact assessments. Privacy impact assessments play a very key and critical role because that helps you gain ownership over what gets uh, through a particular product from a privacy processing or a data processing standpoint. In those privacy impact assessments, I think it's a very good tool for you, again, to pass on the message back to the developers that what is expected from a privacy compliance standpoint. What do they need to think when they are ideating about a product, when they are starting to think about developing a particular feature for a particular product or a particular process. Privacy impact assessments help you to actually note down all the particular requirements, one. Second, identify the risks that generally are tagged along with developing a product or releasing it back to the market. Third, it helps you, again, as I said, create awareness among your own organization that, hey, there is a DPO office who will block your release cycle if you are not going to go through the privacy by design requirements. So if you have this particular process put in place, I think that is a good indicator of you exerting influence on the right stakeholders to ensure privacy by design in all that you do. This is just one example from a product standpoint, but of course in a B2B space or in a process where you are dealing with your HR, say HR is collecting a lot of candidate related data. Have you checked each particular field that the HR is collecting about a candidate, right? So you can go at those sort of levels to ensure that you sit down with these particular stakeholders and ensure privacy by design is embedded and is made a part of the different processes that the HR follows. So at your product, process and people, I think at all these three levels, you should ensure that there is privacy by design through awareness, through particular processes that the DPO office would have laid down in the organization, and reiterating the fact that you need to follow this particular process if a particular product, if a particular process has to go to the market.
Thank you, Bharat. I think that was very well articulated by Bharat. Again, privacy by design is a topic by itself. I don't want to talk about it because we are writing a paper along with DSCI, and I can go on for hours together on that. So,
Can I add
thanks.
a point?
Yeah,
Just a
Reena,
minor
please.
one,
Yeah,
30 seconds.
sure, please.
Thank you. So see, it's like actually, when you play a DPO role, first of all, you collect yourself in your mind that you are the DPO. Feel empowered, and you should assume that you know what you are talking. So when you do that, that means you are empowered, and you go and talk to your application support group or whoever that group is who's having applications developed, right? Own up with them that you will partner and do the the journey with them to identify what are those PBD principles that you need to embed in them, right? So you take a POC kind of a application and say that let's do this and this. Identify what is that software development life cycle which they are following, where are those privacy elements which need to be done, and it covers the same privacy impact assessments and all. The moment you win the confidence of the application support team, your job is done. And then you ask them to make a plan and say you have, say, 30 odd applications or 2 products, let us look at this plan and churn out the whole execution of it. It's all in how you drive it from the DPO office.
I think very well put, Reena. Thanks for adding that point. Again, going back to the responsibility of the privacy office, it's always a collaboration effort. I mean, we can't do it alone, right? And to drive the privacy culture, the collaboration has to come in. So the key points that were covered in privacy by design was it's not just excuse me, it's not just technology. It is also process. It is technology as well as people. That's what comprises of how you can inculcate the culture. So I'll go to Priya with my next question. With DPDPA coming in, Priya, what is your advice to Indian companies on how they can build an effective privacy framework to start with?
Yeah, I think the good part is that we don't have to try very hard now.
Yeah.
We were talking some time back. I just not only India Privacy Bill, I'll come to that. Even for other privacy aspects, we were talking in the some time back, half an hour before. What we talked about was when we started on the security journey. It used to be in responses that RFP and etc. We used to receive some 5 questions for security. Every year they are increasing, and I can assure you, last year I have answered so many RFPs where 70% was security questionnaire. And now for privacy, it started with 2-3 questions, and now every day it's increasing. Now I can say 50% security, and it's around 20% for privacy. So we don't have to put much of effort because it is driven by the business. Because now the law is there, and the compliance breaches are the cost and everything, revenue and all. It's like comparison to what the penalty will be. It's too huge. So it becomes easy for us when the law is there, and at the same time, if it's driven by customers, if it is driven by vendors with respect to the responses that they ask, if your 70% of questions are with respect to security and privacy, that sets the role and thought process of management. We have to put in an effort for sure. But I think the key aspect here is in case we start later and we start in silos, we really have a lot of data, and then there are a lot of legacy issues later. The best thing to have at least basics. Everybody is aware about privacy basics, not only in business, not only, but it should be in departments also. So it is very important to have that aspect that, at least these are basics of privacy, and these are the basic things we need to do with this data with respect to privacy, and start on that. And then create it layer by layer. So, it can be department workflows, and then combining that department workflows, it can be business workflow, customer workflow, HR workflow, and then having a top governance on it. Certification all are subset of it. That's always the last part of it. But the idea is to start with somewhere, because, and to start with, we always think, okay, let's the process start from today. What about the legacy things? The most challenge we all face is with the legacy data. So, we need to have such a process and plan in place that not only take care of the data that we are going forward, but at the same time, something that caters to legacy aspects as well. So, not wait for any, for example, we have India law now, but we all started lot before. We started with GDPR. But point is, let's have that in design from start, so that, later on, in case there is a lot of pressure that now we have to be compliant. In case you steadily do it, that is always a better thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Priya. Sonin,
Just a 30 seconds.
we have only 5 minutes. I'll give you a chance.
30
Just give me
seconds. I won't take much of time. Or what I was saying that,
This is the problem with us DPOs. We
yeah,
love
exactly.
to talk.
And I'll be talking for DPO. That I hope every DPO will agree with the fact that we are think as enabler, not as a barrier for a business. So don't bring us on board at the very first point. So help you to drive privacy from end to end, and not bringing us on the 11th hour and asking to get it done in 1 hour. So I guess everyone would agree with that.
Very, very valid point. So now, in the interest of time, we have only 5 minutes left. I've taken 30 more seconds, Shivangi. I would like the panelists to kind of give me two liners on what are the challenges you have faced as a privacy officer or a privacy professional in your organization. Priya, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the first thing is shift of mindset, because now they understand security is paramount. Now they use that terminology, security is paramount. But now privacy, they need to also understand it is paramount. So that is one important cultural aspect that we have been working towards security. The challenge is making them understand privacy is equally important. Especially with our India and US colleagues, we have a different kind of a working culture. So the most important and key aspect is taking security and privacy in parallel to each other. Yes, there is a challenge because people see security as a paramount, but now there's a time, and we need to have a framework, and we need to have awareness culture in organization where we talk about, because I have started changing that. I don't say security, I say security and privacy. The shift has to come from us. And then I see leadership also, they talk about security, and I say, sorry, security and privacy. So that shift of mindset is important. That is a challenge, but I'm sure we'll be there.
Um, so clearly, I think ambiguity was one of the challenges with what's happened with the entire regulatory landscape around privacy in India. I think I used to communicate one message to my developers, and there used to be a different stance by the regulator. So I think clearly ambiguity and getting that clarity back to the entire teams, including the product, engineering, and HR, I think that has been one of the biggest challenges because giving that clarity was a bit difficult. Second challenge that I would say is clearly making it an independent function and having an independent budget. I think from a privacy standpoint, and as we have been discussing all along, right, difference between privacy security, maybe a tech leader cannot be a privacy leader. This needs to be an independent function. I think that is the theme that is going all around. So I think getting that through that, hey, privacy is a specialized role. This is a specialized function, and it requires a specialized budget. I think that was a big challenge. But now with a clear mandate from the regulator that there is this law and there are stringent fines associated with the same, most of it would be resolved. But clearly that was a challenge that I faced in the organization.
Rina, how about?
Yeah. So quickly, there'll be two of them which I'll tell. One is that you have to have management conviction to allocate budget and a proper, authentic governance process where the DPO office is presenting metrics and the management is questioning. These are two. The third one would be how is DPO facilitating the awareness at the ground level? If you have freshers joining college from college, every 6 months you are having an intake. How are you building that, ingraining the privacy aspects in the day-to-day operations of that individual, so that the organization is saved from, or at least prevented from data breaches? So these will be the.
Thank you, Rina. How about you?
So I'll take a little bit further from Reena, and obviously people have talked about the challenges. So to mitigate the challenges is to bring culture change that we are talking about. Bring in privacy week, bring in privacy month. We have a privacy day on 28th January 2024. So do something which feels that something is going across, and make the value of what exactly privacy means. As Reena correctly said, that freshers don't understand the value of it. Probably a higher management would understand it, but the freshers will make mistakes which can lead to a data breach. So if you bring cultural shift, bring some kind of quiz, sessions in the organizations, they will be aware of what exactly is going across and what is the value of it. So understanding, making people the value of what privacy is, it makes a lot more difference. And later, and that by last, I would say, privacy matters. So whatever and however privacy matters for individuals, and that's what we are fighting for it, and we are trying to protecting the privacy aspects of an organizations of an individual.
Thank you, Dhanan. Well, we can take 2 questions. No? All right. Only 1 question. 3 seconds we have.
In fact, this is more of a question for Priya and Tanen, because I see, your global DPO thing being mentioned, and we talk about being legally savvy or an inclination towards legal aspects when we talk about DPO as a role, right? How do you manage? I mean, 193 countries, 83 countries have regulations, out of which 4 countries or geographies have processor-related obligations. How do you manage those legal aspects?
Thanks for asking that. I can assure you on that. In fact, you asked a use case that was just a month back, where leadership came and said there are 14 countries and we need to go back to 14 countries. And for this customer, we'll be flowing in data from 14 countries. I was like very confident. I knew it will be some Europe, US, and I said, okay, when I looked at it, it was like all weekend. I can't kind of name on that. So I told them, see, I need to go back. And these are the countries I can clearly, and I'm very sure about that, I can talk with confidence. But these are the areas and these are the countries I need an extra consulting on, because I don't want to risk organization, because even, see, it's a very evolving. And then I received one contract and I was very sure about it, that I know about this area. But at the same time, I saw just 2 months back, there are things that have changed. So it is, as you rightly highlighted, it is really difficult. But the key is what you know. But be double sure, go and check. But what you don't know and are like not very confident about, take a legal expertise. Go to the firms or go to the external parties, but don't jeopardize your organization, because it looks like a minor thing, but these are really legal aspects. What you are sure of, what you are not sure of, go to management and say, either I read it, I come with my recommendation, we go those recommendation and take it to external parties who are SMEs in these countries, at least take their opinion. But I will not put a sign without we don't have their opinion. At least that's how we manage it. Yeah.
So I'll add to Priya. Priya would have got 2 months back. I got it yesterday. That 5 countries they have given to me and say that give me an sign off for all these 5 countries, and we are processing the data with those countries. And I was like, wait, 5 countries in an overnight? It's not possible. I have to go and read them, or else need suggestions from legal team or someone who could give you that. And yes, to say that 2 months, I just replied last night on that email that I have to give me a week time to come back to you with some positive answers on that. Thank you.
Thank you, team. It was a wonderful panel. I think we have run out of time. Shivangi will throw us out of the room, right? He's sorry, Shivangi. I mean, it's not my fault.
One small question.
Yes, please.
Anybody can take that. Would you prefer or recommend that the data governance department be separate from data privacy, or data privacy is a subset of data governance? From a design standpoint, how would you recommend?
Anybody wants to take that, or I'll.
let me take that. We have 3 departments. We will agree: data governance, data security, and data privacy. So 3 of the departments goes hand in hand, because I cannot implement privacy without having governance to it. What does governance team does? They are implementing the solutions and making sure that data is. They are the custodian of the data. The
No,
data
but,
governance team.
No, my question is more from a reporting standpoint.
So I will. I'll just answer that. Data governance should be a composition of several stakeholders in the organization, because the accountability needs to be spread across the organization. So the data governance board should be chaired by the data privacy officer, right?
Yeah.
So the head of HR, the head of legal, the head of risk, the head of talent acquisition, and so on and so forth, who all are processing data, finance, and so on.
Or GRC
They should,
head.
yeah, they
Or
should.
GRC head.
GRC head. They should comprise of the data governance board, but it should be chaired by the privacy officer to ensure that they are all doing their job and taking accountability of the job, and they collectively decide on the overall governance pattern, right?
Thank you. And
So thank
DPO
you, team. Sorry, I mean, I think we really run out of time. Shivangi will not allow me to come for a next panel now. So thanks so much, team. I think we covered the theme of the panel was how different is this role, the data privacy office role, from other leadership roles. We've covered in various different aspects on the role and how cybersecurity is not the same as privacy. Security and privacy go hand in hand. CISO and DPO collaborates. DPO is more a facilitator, and the DPO needs to collaborate within the organization, and the accountability needs to be taken by the entire organization as a whole to drive a very strong privacy culture. And privacy is a combination of law, technology, and people. So with that, we'll end this panel, and thank you so much for hearing us out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jagan, you would like to
No
give
more
that
points.
disclaimer?
What's that?
The disclaimer is that whatever we have spoken is not related to.
That is told upfront.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
very insightful session, especially for all the privacy enthusiasts here. Thank you all of you for being part of the panel. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And again, I want to say, CISOs, this is not your job.